Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to our Messer Financial Agent Training with Settlers Life. We have on the line this morning as our panelist is Amy, and we also have Audrey, and they will be doing a presentation for Settlers Life. I wanted to reiterate, we were talking about Settlers products and taking a look at their portfolio. We're going to talk about the riders by product and for who. We're going to talk about also clean and complete applications, so we can get that application in one time and one time only. They also have traditional paper versus the Express app, underwriting from the carrier perspective, and different type of approvals and denials and all those things in between. So they're going to go over the seller's blueprint, so we will be able to write as much Settlers life insurance as possible and get this thing going here. I also want to reiterate, with Messer, we have our agent monthly meeting, and our next one will be August 23rd, 2017, and it's going to be at our same meeting location at the Rome Galleria, which is right off of Cobb Parkway and Cumberland Boulevard. And we're also going to be debuting the new Messer agent rollout for Medicare's Advantage applications that we can do online. So please be there. Take a look out for that on August 23rd. What I'm going to do next is get out of the way and turn this over to our Settlers experts, which is Amy Smith and Audrey Newton. Ladies, you can take it away.
All right, thanks so much. We are excited to be a part of your webinar this morning. Like you said, we are going to try to give you a nice overview of Settlers, but mainly focus on that product portfolio and writing good, clean applications with us and that new Express app process, which is really great. So I'm going to jump right in with just a little history refresher. So we did begin in 1933 as Huff Cook. 1984, we expanded into Settlers Life, mainly so that we could expand outside of those burial plans in Virginia. In 1999, we became a member of the National Guardian Life Insurance Group. We do operate as an independent subsidiary under National Guardian Life. Today, we're in 44 states across the U.S., so we have expanded significantly since those Settlers Life first formed in 1984. We have around 6,500 partners with us. It's a very exciting time to be with Settlers Life. We're continually looking at new processes, changing and improving the company overall. We do specialize in final expense. So in the state where you're writing, you're going to find that you have 3 final expense plans available. You're going to have a gold, silver, and then a modified plan. That's going to be a bronze or a bronze 2 if you're in North Carolina. You're also going to have that child-grandchild benefit, and then the accidental and accelerated benefit riders, which Audrey's going to walk through in detail here in just a moment. Premium payment options, I want to run through that real quick. So of course, we have lifetime pay available. We see that used across the board as the most common payment option. Single pay is available too. So if you have a client with that large lump sum that they want to put into a life insurance policy, that single pay option might be right for them. With single pay, we do see partners use the 1035 exchange sometimes, which we're not going to go into that today, but just know that that's available. And then with the 10-year pay and the 20-year pay plans, of course, you're going to see slightly higher premiums with those plans, but they're paid up in 10 or 20 years, and your client doesn't have to worry about paying for those anymore. One thing to look closely at is the difference in your premium rates when it comes to lifetime versus 20 pay. If you're in the younger age band, say your low 50s, you're going to find there are several scenarios where the difference in rates there might be $5 to $8. So if that client can afford that additional $5 to $8 a month, that 20 pay option might be the best for them. So just something to be mindful of as you're writing business with us. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Audrey, who's going to walk through our product portfolio.
Good morning. We are going to start with the best of our plans. This is our immediate benefit whole life, the best of our immediate benefit whole life policies. This is the gold plan. This is going to be for your clients who have had good health, current good health, for the past 5 years. Your coverage is going to range from $2,500 to $50,000 for ages 15 days to 80 years, and $2,500 to $20,000 for those higher ages of 81 to 85 years. Now we have our silver plan. This is the next step down for our immediate benefit policies. You're going to have ages 6 months to 65 years, $25,000. 66 years to 75 years, $20,000, and 76 years to 85 years for $15,000. Now, this is going to be for your clients who have had good health, good current health for the past 2 years. Now, we have begun accepting insulin-dependent diabetics on the Silver plan, but there's a little more underwriting guidelines that go along with this. They must meet the height and weight guidelines that go along with the Gold plan. They must be a non-smoker and must have been diagnosed with insulin dependency diabetes prior to age 50. Now, they can't have any complications from the diabetes, including circulatory disease, gangrene, skin lesions or ulcers, kidney or renal disease, retinopathy, peripheral neuropathy, amputation due to disease, insulin shock, or diabetic coma. Now, if you refer to your underwriting guidelines, this is all stated in there. If you have any questions about it, we'd be glad to answer them. Now we're going to get to our modified policies. This is the Bronze plan. It's a reduced death benefit for the first 2 years, and your coverage is going to range from $1,000 to $15,000. Ages 40 to 80 years. This is an accommodation product. It is not something that we recommend you selling a lot of. We'll get into that later with our benchmarks that we prefer you keep. Now we have the Bronze 2 plan for you folks in North Carolina. There's a small difference in this. Your coverage is going to range from $1,000 to $10,000 instead of $15,000, and your ages are 40 to 75 years. This is also a reduced death benefit for the first 2 years. Now to our riders. We have the child-grandchild death benefit. This is a one-time benefit for a child or grandchild that has been born in the United States. It is included with all gold and silver policies, and the benefit is equal to the lesser of $5,000, or the base benefit of the policy. So if you have a policy that's $4,000, the benefit is $4,000, it's going to pay out $4,000 for this. Now, if you have a $20,000 benefit policy, it's going to cap out at $5,000, and this is added on for no additional cost. Now we have the accidental death benefit rider. It's additional coverage if death results from an accident. So if Mr. Jones decides to go out and go drinking and then get into an accident and pass away from that, that would not be considered an accident. It is available for ages 15 days to 70 years, and it is going to terminate at age 80. Now we have the accelerated benefit rider. It's added to the gold and silver policies with $5,000 or more in coverage, so they must have a base benefit of $5,000. It is no additional cost. It is for people who have been diagnosed with a terminal condition or have been diagnosed to have continual confinement to a nursing home. It pays out up to 75% of the base benefit, and it reduces the premium for the remaining 25% of the policy. Now, we also have trusts here at Settlers Life. We have the Funeral Expense Trust and the Estate Planning Trust. There are no fees associated with either of these. Now, getting into the Funeral Expense Trust, generally the funds are excluded from your assets for Medicaid and Social Security income qualifications. Your maximum face amount, depending on the state regulation does feed into this, is going to be $15,000 with Settlers Life. Excess funds are going to be paid to the state Medicaid recovery program or the estate of the owner. Now, with the estate planning trust, funds are not going to be excluded from Medicaid or Social Security income spend down until 5 years after the assignment. Maximum face amount is going to be $50,000, and the excess funds are going to be paid to a named beneficiary, whether that be a family member, a charity, a church, or what have you. Now, the Funeral Expense Trust is not available in Florida, Massachusetts, Michigan, or Texas, and the Estate Planning Trust is not available in Massachusetts.
All right, and the only thing else that I would add there, Audrey, on the trust is we've just given you a high overview today. If that's something that you're interested in writing with settlers, there are additional forms required when the application is first written. And we also have 3 training presentations on my.settlerslife.com that you can review and get some really in-depth training on when best to use each trust and what's included. So I wanted to briefly, before we go into the application review, like our partnership mentality at Settlers, we are excited that we're partnered with Messer Financial, and we really see that partnership as a two-way street. So when you call into our partner support center, you are going to get the best service possible. Our folks are trained on new business, on underwriting, on commissions, on web support. They're cross-trained across the board. So our goal is to get you the best service possible in that one phone call. If you call in and you feel like you're not feeling the love, you're not getting that from us, give me a call. I'll be glad to go back and pull those calls, because that is our goal when we're going through that with our training with our partner support folks. Audrey mentioned a little bit about quality benchmarks, so I want to make sure we're on the same page with those. With that, we're really asking, as you're establishing that book of business with us, that the quality is there. That's going to benefit you long-term, in that business is going to stay on the books and you're going to keep getting those nice renewals. But for settlers, it's also going to help us to be more profitable as well. So that's why we like those bronze applications to stay at less than 20% of your total block of business. A 13-month persistency over 75%. We like to see mortality at less than 3. 3-month and 12-month lapse ratios. So we want to see those at less than 12 and less than 25%. And then time without production, we have on here less than 1 month. But that doesn't necessarily mean Settlers is going to turn around and terminate a contract if you're not writing it for a month. But we will be reaching out to see, is there anything we can do to help? Is there additional training? Maybe something didn't go right with an application. Let us try to make that better. So back to that partnership mentality, we are going to try to help you overcome whatever that might be that caused you to stop writing with us if that was the case. So we have that friendly, experienced staff. We have a 24/7 partner website and online reporting, which we're not really going to cover today. We have some great ongoing rewards programs, competitive commissions, 100% vesting upon appointment, and then last but not least, we exist to pay claims. That's one of our big mottos here at Settlers. We're paying 99% of our claims submitted to us each year. Our claims team is very proud of their turnaround stats. They're processing claims less than 24 hours. So once that beneficiary gets us all of the information to process that claim, they're turning it around in less than a day. Our goal is to provide the best service to those folks as possible. Basically, we're asking that client to tell us the truth on the application, pay those premiums, and then we're going to get that claim expedited for them as best we can. All right, so now we're going to jump into the meat of the presentation, focusing first on paper applications. So I'm going to walk through every section of our paper application real quick, giving you a really good idea of what to look for if you are writing paper, things where we see pendings and stuff. Then I'm going to jump into the express application process, which is a little different. So with the paper app, if you're starting at the first page on the application, the proposed insured section, everything in a red box is required. So of course we need name, all of that stuff. I have that date to save age highlighted on the screen. We do allow you to backdate an application up to 6 months to save age. So if you do that, you would mark that question yes, but then also submit that backdated premium with the application. Notice at the bottom there is an assignment of ownership being made to the NGL trust. Of course, we need to know if that's a yes or no. If you click yes, that's when those additional forms would be required. Jumping down to the policy owner section, we're going to need that filled out, of course, if the policy owner is someone other than the proposed insured. When you're looking at a different owner and when you're looking at your beneficiaries, keep insurable interest in mind, especially with that owner. Insurable interest typically is going to include mother, father, sister, brother, grandparents, grandchildren, and children. However, we do see several scenarios where we have a policy owner who's not one of those folks listed there on the screen. In those situations, if you have a step parent or an aunt or an uncle, someone like that who's going to be the owner of a policy, make sure you explain that insurable interest either in agent remarks or on a separate piece of paper and have that owner sign off on it. That's going to allow the underwriter to look at that and evaluate that because that insurable interest does have to exist.
That is one of the reasons that applications are pended. We get them sent over here to us quite often. to reach out to the partner and get the information regarding insurable interest, because it is someone other than the mother, father, sister, brother, grandparents, what have you.
So jumping down to the beneficiary section, in these two sections, the only information that we need to process the application is the name and then the relationship to the insured. I will tell you, our claims department does like it if you give us a little more information in there. If you have it, it does make processing the claim a little quicker and easier for them. But if you don't have all of that, all you're required to have is the name and relationship. All right, now jumping into those all-important health questions. Now, I will mention our health questions are exactly the same on our paper application and our Express app. So as we're going through this, you can remember this for both the paper and Express app process. With Settlers, you have a progressive application. So you have one application for the gold, silver, and bronze plans. Now, if you're in North Carolina, you'll notice your application does not have health questions for bronze. That's because there are no health questions for bronze 2 in North Carolina. But in all the other states, you do have 2 questions to answer to qualify for the bronze plan. So if that client can answer no to those first 2 questions, then you know that client would qualify for bronze as long as they're meeting the age requirements for that plan. Jumping down to the second section, these are your silver questions. So if the client can answer no to all of these, then they would qualify for silver. Same concept with gold. If they can go through here and answer no, then they will qualify for gold. As soon as you get to a yes answer in a section, that disqualifies that client from the plan. So in this example, the clients answered no to everything except for this second question in the gold plan. They've met our height weight guidelines for gold. They had a yes answer here, so that means they're not going to qualify for gold. So you go back to the next plan, which would be silver in this case. The one exception from that is the tobacco question, which is number 1 in the silver section. So it asks, has the proposed insured used any form of tobacco in the past 12 months other than chewing tobacco or snuff? That can be a yes answer, and it doesn't disqualify from silver. It's simply going to determine smoker rates. So we do consider e-cigarettes as smoking, but chewing tobacco, snuff, if they're not inhaling that, we don't consider that to be a smoker rate. Now notice on the screen we have several things highlighted in yellow. Those are things I want you to watch for as you're writing applications with Settlers. Audrey's already addressed the diabetes requiring insulin. That was a recent change for us, so we didn't change the application. So how you would handle that is if you have a client that was on insulin but met those guidelines that Audrey walked through just a few minutes ago, you would mark this question no, and then tell us in agent remarks that they meet those guidelines for insulin dependency on the silver plan. Of course, all those complications are listed there, so they can't have those complications and qualify for silver. Now, if you have a diabetic who is simply treating their diabetes with medicine, that would qualify on silver, but not on gold. Couple of other things, watch for stent placement. That would disqualify for silver if that's been in the past 2 years. Angina, AFib, chronic asthma is a big one. So we see a lot of folks who are being prescribed inhalers for daily use. Anytime that inhaler is prescribed for daily use, that's going to be considered chronic. So that's one thing to be watching out for. Alzheimer's and dementia is another area. So if you have someone who is being prescribed medications for Alzheimer's and dementia, they're not going to qualify for silver. Now, if they meet the age requirements, they could qualify for bronze. However, anyone who is diagnosed with those 2 diseases would have to have a separate owner in order to get that policy. A couple of other things to look for: stroke, kidney failure, kidney disease on that silver plan. Gold questions are very similar. You're just looking at that 5-year time frame for gold. So when we're pulling that medication information, we're looking at it based upon those time frames of the last 5 years and just the last 2 years. When we're walking through that, it would be the enhanced point of sale interview for a paper application on either the silver or the gold plan. So once you get through those health questions, you know which policy your client's going to qualify for. Don't forget Section J. Section J is at the very bottom of that health question section. On paper applications, we see this missed all the time. those are going to be those replacement questions for the applicant. So tell us, do they have existing life insurance, and will this new policy replace anything in force? How you answer those and the state you're writing in is going to depend on, or is going to determine, which additional forms are required to be submitted. Jumping over into the premium billing section, we do see a lot of pendings from this section as well. Premium duration is pretty straightforward. Premium method, there are a couple things to watch out for in here. So pre-authorized checking, where you're collecting the first premium, that's pretty straightforward, as well as pre-authorized checking with drafting the first premium. We do allow direct bill policies, but if you're writing a direct bill policy, you always want to collect that first premium. Otherwise, that's going to cause a pending. As I mentioned before, we have 1035 exchange. List bill is available. We have some additional list bill guidelines. I'm not going to go into those today. It's not something we use a whole lot of, but it is there. Direct Express and this variable billing down here that's highlighted in yellow, those are not available right now. So they're on the application because, quite frankly, it's a long filing process to get those re-added. So we went ahead and added them. We will add them at some point in the future, but don't use those on the application right now. Give us that premium mode, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual, and then the bill day. If you mark no preference, then as soon as we get this application in-house and we have it approved for issue, we're going to go ahead and make it effective. We're going to go ahead and draft it, make it effective as soon as we get it approved. If you choose match existing, this would only be used if your client has an existing Settlers Life policy. Of course, they're going to want this one to bill at the same time, so we're going to look that up for you and make this one match the same bill day. Day of the month, you can choose the 1st through the 28th for the day of the month as a bill day. And the only thing you might want to look out for is if that bill day, when we get that application in, if that bill day is within 7 days, when we receive the application, we're going to go ahead and make it effective for that month. So, for example, today's the 31st. So let's say you tell us you want to make that policy a bill on the 28th of the month. We're within 7 days of the 28th, so if we get that in and approved very quickly, we're going to go ahead and make that effective for July 28th, and then you're going to bill again in August. If you want it effective a specific month, then you need to tell us that in agent remarks. That's also another reason for pending. Once you get that filled out, tell us that modal premium amount. You're going to have your premium amount for your base plan, plus if you add that accidental death benefit rider, and then your premium collected. Paper applications are accepted via snail mail and fax. You can also fax applications when you're collecting that first premium, as long as that is a signed check. We have the fax cover sheet, which is on the screen now. You're going to attach that completed or voided check to that fax cover sheet and make sure the premium payer signs off on it. That's going to allow us to go ahead and take the money from that account as soon as we get it in and process that without having that mail time for applications where you're submitting the first premium. Next up's the applicant statement. That one's pretty straightforward. Make sure the applicant understands that information, have them sign. Owner and co-owner, if those folks are on the application as well, they need to sign here. And then tell us the city and state. That's a big one too. Where did you write, where was the application signed, city and state on that section? Then we jump down to the agent section. You're going to see those exact same replacement questions that were in section J. Of course, we like to see these answered the same way. If they're not, then we're going to question it. So make sure whatever the client said in section J that you echo those responses here in section N. Related to the applicant, we don't pay advances if you're directly related to the applicant. So if you are, tell us what that is there. Telephone interviews. So on a paper application, we do want you to complete an enhanced point of sale interview when you're in the home. That's going to allow you to get an underwriting decision, and it's going to allow you to know before you leave the client's house what plan they're on and if they're with Settlers Life. We understand that there are times when maybe we counteroffer an app or maybe we have to decline an application because of what we find on those medication and MIB reports. However, if you know when you're in the client's home, you can pivot around to another carrier and get that taken care of without having to come back to the client. We understand the frustration of that. And then, of course, we need you to put your name and writing number and sign that application for us as well. I referred to agent remarks a few times. So Agent remarks is just a free space where you give us all the information that you've collected. If you had an insulin-dependent diabetic, put that here. Home health care is another area where you could give us some more explanation. So one of those questions in the bronze section refers to home health care. Now, if that home health care is temporary, say for a hip replacement or a knee replacement, something like that, we would allow that to go through on our plan. So, but we would need the explanation here in agent remarks. Any additional field underwriting that you get, maybe something just looked off in the home, maybe they had an oxygen tank sitting in the corner and they were adamant that they weren't on oxygen, things that our underwriters could take a look at and drill down on to make sure we get these folks on the best possible plan.
Also, right there where it says medications, I know Amy referenced the chronic asthma before. If someone is getting an inhaler, but they do not have chronic asthma, say they use it for allergies, they don't use it very often, maybe they get it filled once a year, what have you, that is a dual-use medication. You're going to find the information on that in the front of your prescription knockout list. You would want to put that in here, otherwise it may pin for a reason like that, or get a counteroffer.
Next up, the policy payer section. We're going to need that completed for every application, even if it's direct bill. So tell us who the policy payer is. If it's the proposed insured, great, check the box and move on. Otherwise, we need some additional information on who that policy payer is going to be. Premium withdrawal authorization is going to be used if you're using PAC. We're going to need, of course, the banking information, the account holder name, financial institution name, city and state, and then whether it's a checking or savings account. You'll notice Direct Express is on the premium withdrawal authorization as well, so make sure you're not using that for right now. Give us those all-important routing and account numbers, and then the signature and name down there at the bottom. All right, so that really walks through the paper application process. So everything that I just walked through about boxes that you need to be sure of that you're not missing, and things you're checking off, and don't forget Section J, all of that goes away with Express App. Express App is a way for you to complete an entire application with Settlers Life over the phone. So it's not an online e-application. You're simply, what we're doing is we're putting the piece of that sales process of completing the application in Settlers' hands, but leaving that sales side of it in your hands so that you can focus on that, and then we can focus on making sure everything is filled out correctly on the application. Also with Express App, you're going to know that underwriting decision, just like on an enhanced point of sale interview with a paper app. But with Express App, you're also going to have a policy number, and you're going to know that application is in good order before you leave the client's home. There are a few scenarios with Express Apps where you have to submit something to us afterwards. For example, if you're doing a first premium, we would still need that. If you're doing a full replacement, we still need those forms. So there's some scenarios where you still need to fax, but the majority of the time you're just doing everything on the phone. So we have an Express App packet that contains all of the instructions for the state where you're writing. In that packet, you're going to find a worksheet, which is right here on the right side of the screen. That worksheet is not required to do an Express application. You do not have to submit that to us. That's simply giving you some information that you may want to collect ahead of time from the client to help that interview go quickly. Things that I know hold up those interviews, for example, are banking information. If you don't have that banking information prior to the call, when you get to that point in the call, it could take some more time for the client to find that and fumble around for it. So you might want to collect some of that stuff ahead of time. But as well, in the Express application packet, you're going to find your health questions. Before you call into Settlers Life, you're going to want to have a good idea of what plan that client is going to qualify for. So asking them a few of those questions, gathering some information before you make the call is going to help that call flow very smoothly. You do have to have a Social Security number for the client to complete an Express App. That allows us to pull that MIB and RX information and make that decision while we're on the call. They're also not approved at this time for remote sales. So we do expect you to still meet with the client when you're writing that. Pick up the phone, call us, and we'll do everything else over the phone. Allowing those remote sales is something that I suspect will come in the future, but for right now, we do expect those to be face-to-face. Now, I want to walk through the decisions on Express applications. So when you call in with the client, you're going to get one of 4 decisions. You're going to get approved as applied. So when you call in, you say, we're going for a gold plan today. They're going to walk through everything on the application. They're going to ask if the client has reviewed the MIB and RX notifications, which those disclosures are in your Express App packet. You want to make sure the client reads off on those before the call. They simply say yes. As soon as they say yes, we start pulling that information in the background as we're starting down those questions for that client. The one nice thing about the Express App interview is we're not collecting anything on the interview that's not required to make a decision until the end of the call. So for example, we're getting those authorizations, we're asking the health questions, asking the clients about medications that come back on the RX search. Until we get to that decision, we're not going to ask things about beneficiaries or banking info or things like that. So you're not wasting your time giving us that and then turning around and getting a decision that you don't want to move forward with. We do counteroffer on the Express App interview. If we do a counteroffer, we make sure that the agent is on the phone to discuss that counteroffer so that you can then discuss it with the client. Refer to underwriting does not happen very often, but there are two scenarios where you would see that we couldn't give you a decision on the call. One of those is going to be driven by settlers. So if we see an AIDS or an HIV medication come back on that script report, due to the sensitive nature of those, we can't discuss those on the call. So that's going to be an automatic refer to Settlers Life. Also, if we receive an MIB hit and the client denies that MIB hit, we're going to have to refer that to underwriting. Now, the partner or the agent can also drive a refer to underwriting decision. So if something comes up on the call, let's say Audrey mentioned dual use medications. So we see lots of medications that are used for a wide variety of reasons. I learned the other day that there's a medication used for, it's a cream used for cancer or acne. And so we're looking at all of this and determining the right decision to make. So if you have a client who has one of those dual use medications and let's say it comes up on the call and the client gives a reason that's not in our list of dual uses. And we say, well, because of that reason, we're going to have to lower them to a silver plan or to a bronze plan. And you go, no, I really don't feel like that's right. I really feel like they would qualify for gold. In that situation, you can request that it be referred to underwriting, but that's going to have to require a paper application because at that point in that interview, we're going to terminate that interview. You wouldn't have to do another enhanced point of sale call with that paper app, but we're not going to be able to get voice signatures or anything like that on the Express app. And then, of course, in a very few situations, you're going to find that it's just going to be a decline. We're not seeing very many of those come through, but it is a possibility. Again, you're right there with the client. You have the opportunity to pivot before you move forward. Some FAQs, things that we run across. Can grandparents complete an Express app? Yes, they are acceptable. Grandchildren are accessible on Express apps. Do you have to send in a voided check? Well, if you're drafting that first premium, we get all of the pre-authorized checking information on the call, so you don't have to worry about a voided check. If you're collecting premium, so direct bill or PAC collect first premium, you do have to send us that first premium via fax using that fax cover sheet. Please put that policy number on the premium when it comes in. Makes our underwriters' jobs much easier there. When would you not use Express app? So in situations where you have POA, guardianship, and custodian relationships, when those relationships exist, we're not able to pull script checks or MIB on the phone because we do have to see those authorizations prior. So that really wouldn't be a good scenario to do an Express app. That would be best to do a paper and then send that information to us. We'll review the POA and do that POS call when we get the application in-house. A few more here before we move on. Can I use Express app for companion applications? So this could be a husband-wife. This could be two applications on the same client. It can be completed on one call. I'll be very transparent with you. Our system is not currently built to copy or duplicate an application, so there is some additional time involved. Our telephone interviewers are very good at moving information from one application to another. I've listened to several calls where they're doing that and they're doing it very well, but you're going to see that those take a little more time. Do you have to have the Express app packet when you meet with the client? Yes, it's very important you have that because of those disclosures that they need to review ahead of time that you need to leave with them.
I would also like to reiterate what Amy said before regarding the Express app packet worksheet. This is going to help make your call a lot quicker. I have had some partners complain about the length of the call, but when we go in to listen to the call, they don't have any of the information together. They're having to ask the client birthday, things like that, and it is going to make the call a more lengthy call. If you have that information already in front of you, it will speed up the process.
And then, can you do an Express F on bronze? Absolutely. Since we have that tiered application, you can do an Express F on any of our plans. And then we've already talked about it's not an online application. Everything's done over the phone, so you don't have to worry about software or anything like that. One other thing I wanted to cover real quickly this morning was our rate calculator option. So we've really gone through everything with our Express App and paper, but regardless of how you're writing with us, it's really great to use a rate calculator because it makes it much quicker to calculate those premiums on the fly. Also, our mobile versions of the rate calculator have an affordability option, which really helps you to pivot while you're in the home. If you have a client that says, I can't afford $82 a month for a premium, you can click over to Calculate Affordable, put in that premium amount, and give them the amount of base plan that they need. We also wanted to walk through our selling system real quick this morning, just to give you some ideas of the marketing materials that were available with Settlers Life. So with the covered selling system, we have the brochure, which is really not a product brochure. So if you're looking for that product information to leave with the client, that is in your application packet, whether it be for Express App or paper. So you'll want to make sure you pull that out and, of course, leave it with the client. But the brochure that we have really walks you through the sales process. I'm not going to walk through it in detail this morning, but know that it's out there and available, really helping you to establish the need with the client, let them know what they get with Settlers Life. Talking about the end-of-life assistance, which is an additional phone number we provide to the client, for questions, like if they don't know how to start planning their funeral, or maybe they need to find a home care agency or a hospice facility, something like that. They just need those questions answered. They're just kind of stuck. They can call into that number and ask those questions of our end-of-life assistance experts, and we'll help them to get on the right track. The back of the brochure does help to establish why they should choose Settlers Life for their final expense coverage. We talk about our financials, our A- rating by AM Best, and then back to that focus on paying claims. We have a planning guide for you to give out to your clients. All of these are free, by the way, that you can order from our website. The planning guide is like a memorial guide with a lot of additional features. We have that summary page for policy benefits and premium amounts. The consumer rights under the FTC funeral rule, which if you don't know those, that might be something good to take a look at. That would just help you to establish more trust with the client, providing information that they probably don't know, but rights that they have under that rule. Of course, you have the planning pages. We have a nice, concise listing of end-of-life resources, and then in the back, there's a place to insert your business card. With Settlers, you get 500 free business cards after you write your first application. So if you've not already done so, once you write that first application, you can go out to www.settlerscards.com and order those 500 business cards for free. Last but not least is our magnet, which our partners love using the magnet. It's a way for them to leave something with the client that has their business card on it. So at the bottom of the magnet, there's some blue dots where you can attach your own business card. Put it on the refrigerator, but then also we see folks generate referrals and future leads on these magnets, giving them to friends, neighbors, family members of that client, and then getting contacted by them to have them sell insurance. So it's really a free lead generation source. So all three of those, the magnets, the brochures, and that are free as a Settlers Life partner.
Now, I know we went through our benchmarks before, but I do want to dive into real quick the Beyond Benchmark Bonus Program. This is a monthly program where if you write at least 4 applications and $4,000 in premium, have these benchmarks achieved, then you will get a monthly bonus. Now, these benchmarks are a little further in depth than our basic ones. Your mortality is going to be less than 2%. Your 3-month lapse needs to be less than 10%. Your bronze needs to be less than 15%. So like I said before, try to watch out for those bronze policies. Maybe there may be another carrier that you have that would be better suited for them instead of writing a bronze, but we do accept the bronze. A 12-month lapse needs to be less than 20%, and your 13-month persistency needs to be above 85%. Like I said, it is 4 approved applications per month minimum. Now, this does not include writing yourself, family members, or other current or previous Settlers Life agents, so those will not go towards this. Also, only 25% of your single pay and annual pay premiums will count towards this. But this is a nice little incentive. You know, you can get a monthly bonus 12 months out of the year if you can complete this.
All right, so that wraps up our presentation this morning. I hope we've been respectful of your time but given you all of the information that you need. So, Jeff, were there any questions that you had come through that we could answer before we jump off the call today?
Absolutely. So we've got a few to go through, and I'll just list them, and then you guys can answer, and we'll go through these real quickly for everyone. First of all, what do your height and weight guidelines look like compared to other carriers that you compete against?
Our height and weight guidelines are pretty lenient. For example, let's just say you have a 5'8", someone who's 5'8", the minimum weight on that is 102, the maximum is 228. If you have someone who is 5'11", the minimum is 111 and max is 247. Those are available in the underwriting guide as well as on those mobile rate calculators that we talked about.
Yeah, it's on page 4 of the underwriting guideline, and it's only applicable to males and females over 11 years of age. But it's for your average for each person.
All right. You guys had referenced earlier in the presentation about medications. So are those viewed on a case-by-case basis per condition of the applicant? Example, again, you mentioned the inhalers as being dual medication. So can you touch on that for just a second?
Sure. And they are reviewed on a case-by-case applicant for applicants. If it is considered a dual-use medication, we'll have that lined out within our underwriting engine. They just need to tell us what it's used for. So with like asthma, it's not necessarily a situation, but it's more of the frequency of the use. So like I said, if that's something they're using daily, we would consider that chronic. But if it's not used daily, if it is allergies, that's something that we would allow to go through. A good example of a dual-use medication would be gabapentin. Gabapentin is used for diabetic neuropathy, but gabapentin is also used just for general nerve pain. So that would be one if we say, okay, if we have your client on the phone and we say, okay, Ms. Smith, I see you have gabapentin. Can you tell me where to take that? If she says, well, it's just for nerve pain, not related to diabetes, we would allow that to go through. We do have those medications outlined within our knockout list. If you have further questions on that, does that help?
Absolutely, absolutely. As an agent that is contracting with you but doesn't have business ready to submit just yet, would I still have access to all the training materials?
Yes. Yes, all the training materials are going to be on my.settlerslife.com, and they'll receive all the information that they need to log into the website, which they can at that point either order hard copies or download as PDF for, say, the underwriting guidelines, the prescription knockout list. All of that they can access on that website. Okay.
I have another question. If we have a client who at some point has to turn over power of attorney, is there a way to have multiple copies of the policy sent out to those people that would be able to make sure that that's carried out correctly? How would we handle that?
So you're saying you have multiple folks who have power of attorney?
Well, I'm saying if the person that owns the policy would like to have multiple people receive copies of the policy, is that an issue, or how would we go about having those taken care of?
I've never had that question come up before. Typically, we would just send one copy of the policy out to the owner of the policy. I would have to check on that one and get back with you. I know we like to have that one main copy that goes out.
I will check with holder services, and I'll give you a call here in a little bit to answer that question. Is that all right?
That'd be perfect. That'd be perfect. And again, just to reiterate, smokeless tobacco is handled differently than inhaled tobacco, correct?
Correct. Smokeless tobacco would be considered a non-smoker and get non-smoker rates.
Okay. And then obviously the next question is tied to that. With medical marijuana on the horizon and in those states where it has been legalized, how will that be handled in terms of smoking or non-smoking?
We follow federal guidelines currently for marijuana or any drug use, so it would be a knockout.
Okay. All right. And again, you said the relationship with the applicant may not qualify you for advanced commissions. Can you speak on that for just a second and qualify? Is it blood relative or by marriage, or what are we looking at there?
I'm looking at immediate family members. I mean, if we're talking like a third, fourth, fifth cousin, I don't really care about that. I don't know about that. But immediate family, husband, wife, children, parents, that type of thing.
Okay. All right. And again, when we're getting ready to do the Express app, what would you recommend that the agent and the prospective client have with them? The banking information, medical, and social, correct?
Yep. Have that pre-qualification done, banking information. They need to know their beneficiaries before they call in, but they don't have to write that information down.
Like I said before, I would highly recommend for their records as well as keeping the call in a timely manner, doing the Express app worksheet in the packet, or at least going through it so they already know that information when they're on the call, so they don't have to ask the proposed insured as they're on the call, because that does turn the call into a longer call.
Great. And ladies, for my own well-being with the agents that are still on with us today, I know you guys include a certain number of magnets, and Rob was really big on making sure that you leave those with each prospective client or those folks that you do issue policy with. How many sales do we have to have so that the agent can earn additional supplies like that for free or at a discounted rate?
They're all for free, and what we'll do is when we send out that new partner kit, you have a small supply of magnets. Now, if it's a just-in-time state and you've got to write that first piece of business before we'll finalize your appointment, we won't send out any additional magnets until that first piece of business comes in. But once that comes in, you can go online and order, 10, 20, 30 magnets at a time. We're really just going to question that if you go out there and try to order like 500, and we're going to be like, whoa, are you doing some kind of...
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
The website does, when you try to order it, when you're putting the order in for the magnets, it will not let you put in an order for over 25, but in the event that you are writing business, your business looks good, we will allow you to go in and order multiple orders of 25, but it will only let you order in 25 magnet increments.
Outstanding. And for the agents that are fairly new to the life business, could you guys just for a moment share maybe some of the ideas or thoughts that some of the better agents that work with settlers, how they go about prospecting? Do they do life planning seminars for seniors, or their flyers or things like that they leave out in the community, and where do they leave those? Do you guys have any insight into that?
We really have a myriad of different things partners are doing. It really depends on the area you're selling, your sales techniques, and really the connections that you have. We see some folks who are selling Medicare that try to cross-sell those Medicare agents at the right times of the year with those final expense sales. We see folks that have done, I know folks who are affiliated with funeral homes or cemeteries, they've tried to benefit on those leads and cross-sell those with final expense. So they'll do some postcard mailings or things like that. We do have a lot of folks who are still dependent on lead sources. We don't have a direct lead source at Settlers, but we know folks use them. So that's another option as well. And then referrals.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, yeah, good old referral system. All right, and I think that about touches what we needed to today for us with the questions. I would like to remind everyone again to reiterate what Karen mentioned earlier. We will be having our monthly meeting in Atlanta on the 23rd. We'll also be doing a Medicare landscape meeting in Raleigh on the 16th of August, I believe. Please make sure that you check your emails and that you're making sure that you do your AHIP and your certifications. And keep settlers in your mind, folks. When you're having those conversations, getting ready to set those appointments, people often wait too long, and they need some additional help. And the folks at Settlers are glad to help you agents with those questions that you may run into in the field. So, ladies, with that, I'd like to say thank you, and thank you to Settlers for your support of Messer Financial Group. And if we have any additional questions, and we'll get those over to you, and look forward to generating some business out in the field. Thank you so much.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.